Conversations today, my guest has had a long and distinguished career in public service. Groomed at the universities of Allahabad, Cambridge, and Harvard Law School, he has served as a member of Parliament, as a member of the Union Cabinet, as governor, as vice president, until recently as the President of India. I'm delighted to welcome Mr. Shankar Dayal Sharma. As India celebrates the 50th anniversary of its independence, and you sat there in Parliament, what were your feelings and thoughts at that time?
At that time we were thinking of the future. We were all full of Nehru's words of tryst with destiny, building something new as we will like it to be. And so far I am concerned, I was full of Nehru because I studied at Allahabad. I came in contact with him in 1936 at Allahabad.
What are your sort of most vivid memories of the freedom movement? Where were you, and were you involved with it, and in what ways?
Every one of us had to be involved, and I was freedom struggle. I got involved in 1936 under Nehru's inspiration. My whole career was built on that basis.
When you sat there in Parliament on the 15th of August, 1997, were you despairing about the state of the nation in any way, that the sacrifices and the struggles that you will have seen and participated in 50 years ago?
Though we were remembering those days and the aspirations we had and the hopes we had, but we are by nature optimistic. And by upbringing all the time optimistic. But that kept us going in the whole period. That same thing continues.
You have had a long and distinguished career in holding so many offices in public service. As president, did you feel sometimes frustrated by the limitations of your office, that you wish you could have done more when the Babri Masjid was being demolished, so there were critical questions?
Critical questions, and then I acted on my own, according to my conscience, because the words of Gandhi and Nehru were there in my mind, and I spoke. I didn't hide anything. I gave an interview, which is unusual for a president. Some of the people asked me, the president is not supposed to speak. Rashtrapati. When I said, if the Rashtra is there, then Rashtrapati is there. If Rashtra is not there, where is the Rashtrapati? There's the interview I gave.
There's been considerable discussion and debate about the role of the president. In what ways have you interpreted the role of the president?
On every occasion, I interpreted it according to the best of my ability. And the first time I had the question came up was in Andhra Pradesh. When I went there as the governor of Andhra, suddenly I was asked by Indiraji to go there. And she told me, do as you like. And that was a real question, because Mr. Ramlal, my predecessor, had dismissed Mr. Ramarao and appointed another, counting heads in a way. And then I didn't say anything against my predecessor, but in his decision he had taken the 1 month. He must prove. So I waited for the 1 month, and 1 month was over. I asked him to quit the man who was appointed.
But this has been an issue that has engaged you considerably, the whole issue of Article 356, and you organized this meeting of the governors, which was sometimes considered, people wondered why. What have been your personal sort of convictions in this area?
Article 356 is not something to be used. It is the very lever it should be used. And so My first experience was, I was advised by government, almost government of India, I can say, to have the president's rule in Andhra Pradesh. And my reply was no, clear no, no president's rule. We must say the government can be formed, and the government was formed of NTR. So that is it.
What were your motives in calling together this meeting of governors to look at this issue of when there is a hung parliament? What does the governor do or the president do?
I wanted people to talk, discuss, open up. That's why I called the political parties and others, so that in place of things remaining, they should come out. What is there in mind? No decision was expected, and that wouldn't have been any value whatsoever. But I wanted people to talk, think about it. Think process is the most important thing.
What are your own thoughts in the matter? When does it become appropriate?
We should follow the Constitution bilaterally, then it's all right. Otherwise, it should not be used for the convenience of the government in power. And that is against the spirit of the Constitution itself.
Do you feel there is a role for the judiciary in this?
If the others don't take, judiciary can come. But normally, no.
Would you agree with what the president said in Parliament and the Prime Minister has said on the Red Fort about the decline in standards of public life? You see, chaos and turbulence in the well of the House. You have presided over the House for many years.
Sometimes their behavior frustrates one, and it happened with me.
How do you think we could begin to remedy this?
Educating people. This process of governors' conference was a process of educating people, and educating the governors, and educating leaders, how they have to do it.
What would you describe as the role of the president, the changing role of the president in India?
President's role is always the same as is provided in the Constitution. Now, for instance, I had 4 prime ministers in my time. I swore in 4 governments.
But the law is open to interpretation, and there is sort of the perception that India perhaps needs a more activist presidency, and there is even a debate on the possibility, perhaps, the desirability of a presidential form of government.
That has been discussed long. It has been discussed in America and everywhere. And in India, we are often tempted for the presidential form of government. But you can't have presidential form of government in India.
Why not?
Our population is so large. And then there are so many differences. And then we don't want a dictator. There's always a tendency to become a dictator.
Do you think that the press in India has done a good job of its responsibilities?
Sometimes they can say yes, but at that time there is a feeling that it is one side that they give out very much.
And which side is that, do you think?
This side which is not very good.
What are the elements of India's future? You said that you were by training and breeding an optimist. What are the aspects of India that you feel optimistic about, sir?
Now they are continuing our democracy, prospering all these years. And you have told the world, showed the world that for the last 50 years we have run democracy. And at that time, Panditji said that the common sense of the people, the good sense of the people, is something on which he depended.
But don't you feel that democracy perhaps is now threatened because of the criminalization that, as you say, the press reports, the decline in standards?
I don't say there is press report like but the overwriting over something. People just, because the press creates the opinion of the world, and then if this notion goes that politicians are criminals, it may give a good copy, but not good for the country.
During the independence struggle, what were the contrasting appeals, perhaps, for you of Gandhiji and Nehru?
Both were appealing, and I had the luck to be in contact with both. And of course, closer contact with Panditji, because I reached Allahabad in 1936. Not so close with Gandhi. Gandhi I could only see from a distance. But with Pandit Nehru, I used to meet, talk, discuss. And he really was responsible for my career.
In what way did he induct you into the process?
He had started classes in Anand Bhavan for young people, socialism. He got hold of a number of intellectuals and others. And then he used to go there. That's how I went there and came in contact with him. And he changed his personality, changed his whole life.
Do you feel a sense of regret that India has abandoned those socialist ideals for more market-driven reforms?
Socialism, market-driven reforms, they are not contrast. There is no contradiction.
How would the socialism of Nehru have responded to the current economic liberalization?
It would have done, because there is one thing which people forget. That liberalization, Nehru at that time was having the controlled economy because India couldn't absorb. In the meantime, we have developed. And now we can absorb, compete, the new technology and everything. And he would have been one with it.
Where were you, Mr. President, on the 15th of August, 1947?
I told you I was at Harvard Law School.
How did you spend the evening that India, 10,000 miles away, was?
We were all there, gathered together, Indians, and we enjoyed it.
And what brought you back to India after your distinguished academic career at Cambridge and Harvard Law School?
Well, my place was India, and it may interest you to know that I came back to India and landed in jail within a short while.
Why was that?
Because I was fighting against these autocratic rule of the ruler of the state. And I come from a state, Bhopal. They wanted the Nawab Bhopal was a known person. He was the Chancellor of the Chamber of Princes. He was opposed to everything that is there. He is the person who wanted the states to have the option to join this or that. He tried at the time to have he won all the princes as one. And so naturally the conflict was but natural.
How did public life happen to you? Here you were a lawyer, and by the time you came back from Harvard Law School, India was already independent. What prompted you to go and serve the country at that time?
I had to fight for the state people. Panditji, all the time he had created the State People's Conference.
It seems that in some ways you were perhaps more attracted to the personality of Nehru than the personality of Gandhiji. Is that so?
Gandhi looked far off. Nehru's speech, everything was of the common people, which Gandhi, I have told him many times, Gandhi used to walk so fast, which I could not do. His thinking was much ahead and often crossed our head.
If you would say that what is the kind of impetus for change that India needs today, which areas would you think that we should begin to focus on?
We should try to change the approach. I'm using the word change, but otherwise this has been there all the time. approach to various questions.
What is this approach that you feel is uniquely Indian?
That if we believe in, I can put it as I have defined two or three times before, there should be pure means for pure ends. This is Gandhi. I follow Gandhi. Pure means for pure ends. You can't go, if with tainted aim, tainted methods, you can't get good result. Purity of means.
What would you say is now your agenda as the recently former president of India?
If I get time, I will like to write about the friends who made India freedom possible. Many of them greater than my greater, because some of them I am alive today.
Who are some of these people that you will write about?
Now it depends on, and I feel like most of them are those, will be those who were with me in the 42 movement.
Apart from the obvious figures of Gandhiji and Nehru, who were some of the other towering personalities that inspired and touched you in that 42 movement?
The 42 movement, if I talk about, then it is the not so talked about people.
Who are some of these not so talked about people?
For instance, 42 movement, I was in Lucknow, and I'll never forget how I was saved by a colleague of mine from the Monkey Bridge, the old Monkey Bridge. They're firing at us. We knew some methods. One of them was to lie down, but one cannot remain lying down. One used to, and then there is, of course, they're lying down like out the British blows. They talked so much by the press and so many things. Then a friend of mine, he just made me lie down. And in the process, he lost his life. This is something which is in my heart.
Who was this friend?
A friend with me in the moment.
What was his name?
No. He just gave his life, and then I was saved. If he had not, he was trying to put me on one side, and then I would have, in place, I would have been there. And that always hurts me, because he was much greater man.
Do you feel that in your years as President of India that you have completed your agenda? Is there something else that you would like to have done? Would you like to have had more time to do more? Play a larger, different role, perhaps?
I don't know. I can't say. I took a job which came to me. I tried to do it to the best of my capacity. That's why I said I appointed 4 prime ministers.
Is that a matter of some regret, perhaps, that there were 4 prime ministers that India went through in your tenure and that there wasn't more political stability? Is that a matter of concern for you?
No. They came and what came my way, I did it according to the Constitution.
To what degree do you feel that the president has flexibility in the sense, is the Constitution, the constitutional role of the president open to interpretation as any law or anything written is?
No, President's role has been left open, not for interpretation as such. At the time, the presiding officer is to see what is the best for the country.
But to what element can that be a subjective assessment?
To a certain extent, subjective, but if there is everything is clear, crystal clear, then that subjectivity disappears. You should be open, discuss, talk, and then decide.
There has been this sort of debate that the presidency should perhaps be redefined in some ways, that there shouldn't be the subjective element. Is that something that you feel you would want to add to this debate, having served there yourself?
Discussion will have to be left to the president. He'll have to decide the best of his conscience.
Do you miss being at Rashtrapati Bhavan?
No, I have been in so many places, in jail hospital, all these places. So for me it is nothing. I was, if you remember, if you were here, I was, at one time I have been a minister and then an MP. And then, how you take it.
How do you take it? The different roles and responsibilities that you had.
There should be the satisfaction that I have done whatever I have done to the best of my ability and conscience. If your conscience is clear, everything is easy.
What is your, you're going to write these memoirs. You've spent a lifetime in public service. What is your agenda for the rest of your life?
I talk about these great men that I've been doing before also. For instance, like Rajendra Babu, I have written, I have spoken about it. People like Lal Bahadur Shastri, these people who spent their life and kept up certain standards.
Mr. Sharma, it's been a privilege and an honor. And today is the 19th of August. It's your 79th birthday. From all of us, happy birthday and thank you.